going on, boys? Welcome back to the podcast. We got my main dog, Lucas, here.
That's me.
My main squeeze.
Hi. What?
And today we're gonna be talking a little bit about inspiration, because as you all know, Lucas is my little film hoe, and I know that
Sure.
we both get it. You know, he just gets me, bestie.
That's so true.
So I thought, because here's the thing, right? You may have seen the title if you have eyes about talking about, what is the title gonna be?
Inspiration.
Oh, yeah. When inspiration becomes insatiable. And like, you might be thinking, what does that mean? Well, oh my gosh.
What happened was that
So
Cam
dumb.
found a new word in the dictionary and really wanted to use it.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, I knew that one.
Mm-hmm.
But no, basically it's just this whole concept of, you know, as like creative people, sometimes we just get these ideas and it's like a calling, you know, and it's like all you can think about, and it just kind of like takes over your life when you get like a really big idea, you know. So I just kind of, excuse me, I just kind of thought it would be good to talk to my main dog, about this, because like I said, I know he gets it. So was there anything you wanted to kick off with this?
Okay. So, I feel like the first thing that happens with inspiration, at least for us, is that we kind of affect the other person by it. Because I know that whenever you are hit with inspiration, whenever you're like, oh my god, Lucas, I'm writing this piece, it's so good, you usually like call me for at least an hour while you're like playing it and figuring it all out. And you're just kind of like a blur of just making it happen.
Yeah.
That's all you can really think about. And I know that I'm the same way. Have I ever called you? Like, whenever I'm hit with inspiration, I'm just doing stuff. Do I call you? I honestly don't remember.
Sometimes you do, and then you're like, oh my god, Cam, I just started saying, okay, bye.
Yeah. It's usually what happens. Is also
So
I'll
I'll try to like
immediately tell
explain
you.
it to you using me. This is like you're talking mostly about like when we're doing film stuff, right?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Like when I came up with the main theme for the film we worked on over the summer.
Yes,
and
for
I called you.
Paperboy.
Oh, you're gonna just say the name like that?
We've said it before.
Are you for real?
Yeah.
But yeah, I came up with the main theme for that, and I was just like, oh my god, Lucas, it goes from C to, I'm not spoiling it.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy because we just filmed and you were frantically describing me.
It was like 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
Like I needed to go to bed, but
Yeah,
this is like what I'm talking about.
It was way past your bedtime.
This is what I'm talking about. Like there'll be times when I'm writing a song, and like I happen to be kind of a night inspired person a lot of the times.
Yeah.
I work best in the evening sometimes, but there'll be times like last year during school, or like a couple years ago, when I was like writing more singer-songwriter songs because I was having all the feels because I didn't have hoes.
You can't say that, Cam.
Like we're writing all like the distance, separation, I want you, I need you songs, right?
Yeah.
Like I would have these ideas, and like at like 10:30, like way already past my bedtime, right? But then like there are videos on my computer of me shirtless in my bed singing random melodies, like okay, and then like the chorus would go like da da ba 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 da ga ga, you know, like just like random stuff like that, just like
Yeah.
And that's another thing I'll do too, is like I'll think of something and I know I'll forget it, so I'll just like pull out my phone and be like, okay, this is the thing, and I'll just like play it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like it's those things, like when you get those ideas, it's like it doesn't matter that it's past your bedtime,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
or that you're tired. It's just you have to get it out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, going back to when you called me with the melody for Paperboy, the way you were describing it in these frantic paragraph-long texts, you just completely understood what I was trying to do with the movie, probably better than I even understood it. And I just read that, and I was like, oh my god, he knows exactly what he's doing. I was just really happy about that. We haven't talked a lot about that melody. Do you still know how you want that to go?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Because, yeah, we did.
I wrote it down in my
Good.
sheet sketchbook.
If you viewers at home have been keeping up with the Paperboy saga, you'll know that we stopped production on it
When did we talk about that?
after summer ended. Last time it
On
was
a podcast?
Yeah, it was
Oh.
the first session. It was like
Oh.
about the films.
The creative process. Perhaps?
Yes, that one.
DBD episode number 7 with Lucas. The creative process.
That's the
perhaps?
one.
Sometimes I have an encyclopedic knowledge of my videos, and other times I don't even remember what they're called. So
You usually don't even like remember to say the name of the podcast at the beginning.
I usually don't even remember what I'm talking about to like the person that's coming tonight for the
Yeah.
podcast session.
Anyways, I mean, I definitely get that same feeling about just having to write it down. Like, I have this one notebook that has just a lot of stuff in it. It's got all the stuff for my film club. I write stuff for that down in there. When I was planning out this like feature-length movie that I was kind of building in my head, I was planning out everything for that, and that's also where I've been putting stuff for Paperboy, and it's where I've been putting all of my ideas for stuff. So whenever I'm just hit with an idea, I write it down in my notebook. If I don't have my notebook, I'll write it down on Google Docs or something, just so I won't forget it, or I'll put it on a sticky note, because there are just these times where I have this just light bulb go off in my head where we're talking about something. It could be anything. Like one time during English, when our book was Chronicle of a Death. No, it wasn't Chronicle of a Death Foretold. It was Wuthering Heights. That was our book, and my
True
teacher.
classic.
Yeah, my teacher was talking about it, and he described it as being set on the moors.
The Moors of England.
Yeah, and when he said that, I just all at once had this image in my head of this just like really, really old-fashioned, crackly, gargly, distorted voice saying the moors as you look at this, not necessarily black and white, but this really vintage movie set. Yes, Cam, the moors.
It
But
would sound like that.
yeah, no, actually, when I pictured it, this is this insanely deep voice that just goes like the moors, like that, but it's like it's
But it's like-
amplified.
But it's like someone who actually has a sexy voice, not either of us.
Yeah, in essence. And then I pictured just this whole storyline of there being witches living on the moors, and how this guy is like the last one of them. And this entire storyline just came into my head from my teacher saying the moors and describing the context for Wuthering Heights. And I just thought, oh my god, that would be so cool if that was a movie. And even if it's not, even if it's just a little idea, which it probably is, even if it turns out to be nothing, which it probably will, I'm so glad that I wrote it down, because I was just hit by that inspiration.
Yeah.
Just in that moment. But that was a small example. I think you probably want to talk about bigger ongoing
No.
examples.
That led me to ask you about something like the value of those ideas that never get seen, you know? Because I remember like when you, like one time when you wrote like that dialogue about like the door being held open, you know, like you're probably never going to use that. Or, like there are so many like tidbits of songs and stuff that are probably never going to be seen, but it's just, I think the more important thing is just that you're doing stuff. Because like if you if you just throw things at a wall, eventually something's going to stick, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like as creative people, like the amount, like what people see that we put out is such a limited glimpse of all the stuff we've done.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely.
Like I have like a video game concept that's been in development for like 2 years, and like unless I learn how to program and never sleep again, it's like never gonna come to light, you know? But still, it's one of those ideas. I fellow podcaster Zombie one time in the Discord DMs said to me something that has just always stuck with me so deeply, that because I was talking to them about how I had started getting back in my pixel art, working more on like that kind of stuff, and I was posting it. I was putting it up online, and I just remember I was super excited about it, talking to them about it, and they told me, you know, something really important is you need to make art for yourself, you know, and I was kind of confused by it, and well, I was kind of confused by what they meant, you know, and here, one second, I'm gonna actually find the quote.
You're gonna find the quote.
I'm gonna find the quote. Give me just
You're
one
gonna pull
second.
it up.
Yeah,
Alright.
I took a pic. I actually transcribed the quote in a letter to someone I wrote, and then I
Really?
took a picture of it. All right,
I also end up transcribing like a lot of quotes. Did you find it?
Yeah, I did find it. It goes a little something like this. I also recommend you make art just for yourself from time to time. Things that aren't going to be posted online. Art that you don't show anyone from time to time as well. Kept away from friends and family, just something for you and you alone. The point isn't necessarily that it's a secret, but rather the pressure is off for it to look a certain way or meet a certain standard. And that just like that quote just like really like when they explained it like that, I was like, wow. Like, whoa. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like because it's true when you make things, there's the standard that you largely you set for yourself, you know?
Yeah.
But when you can just let go and just play and experiment, that's some of the times where you grow the most, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay for inspiration to not go anywhere, but if you let it just open up and let it go places, that's still good. Still good things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, recently, just because of school, I haven't been doing much creatively to do with films. I was able to do that a lot more last year just because there was less school work. I was taking a creative writing class, which allowed me to write a lot of stuff, which I'm also really passionate about, and I was able to write screenplays, which just combines writing and movies. So now, even though I haven't really been writing anything, I've still been finding inspiration in places. I've still been writing stuff down. Just when when an idea comes to me, I've been writing down quotes that I like. I have just a few quotes in the Google Doc that are amazing, and I always remember song lyrics that really stick with me.
Yeah.
And I guess this is kind of an offshoot about when inspiration takes you. I feel like whenever I'm not taken by inspiration, I try to find it elsewhere, especially by watching movies and reading books and listening to music. Like, I just try to let those places... I try to let those things show me what they have to offer, and that'll always help me become inspired.
For sure. I feel like sometimes when I'm kind of in a bit of a slump, I'll just like listening to new music or watching videos. Like Charles Cornell, he's a YouTuber, he's a jazz piano player, and he makes a lot of his videos where he just looks at he'll look at an iconic movie soundtrack or video game soundtrack or a song or something, and he'll explain his thoughts about it and also the music theory behind it and explain what makes it tick, you know?
Okay.
And sometimes his videos just get me going, you know? Like I'll watch them and I'll just see him break the stuff down and just think to myself yeah, that's and it's just like little. I get what you mean because you look for those places because I mean once I studied with a composition mentor who told me that the only weakness they could detect in my practice was that I don't ever listen to things.
Really?
I don't ever study because a lot of in college as a composer, a lot of what you do is, you know, other than defending these pieces that mean the world to you,
Yeah.
to some composers but why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Just it hits you with the heart. It's always soul crushing a little bit. Composition lessons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because literally, you do a lot of defending your own work, you know. But
Yeah.
But no, another thing too is you'll have to study. They'll give you a piece, and next lesson you'll have to come back and talk about it. Explain. I mean, I was working on a piece that used instruments as characters, right?
Yeah.
The creating characters and motifs and to make a story-driven piece, right? And I was given these different pieces, examine, and they were told me look at this, and and it's just you have to. And my worry was always that if I listened to other music, I would end up accidentally ripping it off. But the thing is, that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It will just make you more well versed in the mediums, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
So that was always kind of a fear I had, was that if I listened to someone, I would start writing too much like them.
I never knew that. That is honestly a bit bizarre.
You didn't know? I never talked to you about that?
No, you didn't.
But no, that was a fear I had a little while back.
Huh.
And to be honest, I still need to work on doing more studying. But maybe this summer that'll be a side project I can do, is listening more. But I think just another thing that really helps for me as far as music goes is playing with people. Because even though I want to be a composer, I never want to stop playing with people or playing. because that's a massive part of what makes music fun is playing.
Yeah.
You know, and some of the best experiences I've had are playing with other people. And also, some of the biggest inspiration I've gotten is from studying pieces through playing them. You know, like
Yeah.
as a percussionist, when I'm not doing anything half the time, I can just sit back and listen to what's going on. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
absorb the whole band. You know, and that's just really like, I just kind of like went off about you talking about getting inspiration from other places like that, because that's a really important part of the creative process is being diverse and like your understanding of what you do, you know, and studying your own field. You know,
Yeah.
like for you, watching films, that's a big thing for you, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and understanding what makes them so good. For me, I really should do more listening and more. But part of my big problem is that I really need the motivation of an instructor to help me find things, you know?
To find
'Cause-
music.
Yeah, because like in like when I wanted to, like I'm working on some percussion solos right now, right? And like I'm just not immersed in that world of like solo repertoire. I can't say that word, repertoire.
Repertoire.
I can't say it anyway. Repertoire, solo music, right?
Okay.
I'm just like not well versed in that world, and I wouldn't even know where to start. But like my like percussion instructors can tell me, oh, you would play that, play this, you know.
Yeah.
It's just like as far as composition goes, I guess I could just like do my own research on different periods. That would be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Research periodic music, because as much as I am indifferent towards classical and older music, it is still important to study, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess maybe I would just have to do my own research. But my whole point here is that, you know, it's you need to study in order to like employ your inspiration the best, and also study to gain inspiration,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Stephen King, I read a book by him once where he said that you can't become a writer without reading what other people make.
Mhm.
And that's just a big reason why I've just been trying to read books that I've never read before, or watch movies that I've never watched before. I don't think I've watched like a movie that I've seen before, like again, in the past 3 months, if that makes sense. Like everything I've watched has been new, just because I want to just gain new experiences, and see what different movies have to offer. And that goes for a lot of different things. I mean, that goes for movies, that goes for books, and then there's this YouTube channel that I like to watch called Studio Binder, and they basically like dissect movies and look at what makes them good. We watched a few of their videos in my English class a few years ago, and those just really interest me. Like in my yearbook class a few days ago, we were walking around taking pictures of stuff, and since I wasn't really doing anything, I was just like watching Studio Binder videos on my phone, just learning about how to use color and camera angles in movies, because that stuff really interests me.
Mhm. Mhm. And yeah, that's the other thing too is, you know, obviously things on the internet to some extent are to be taken with a grain of salt, but there are people out there that know what they're talking about. You know, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
especially for me, like as I've been getting more into audio production, working in a digital audio workspace and stuff like that, it's like a lot of it is just having the fearlessness to experiment. And I think one major thing it's actually been important to me too with how to deal with inspiration is I just remember my first big composition mentor I had several years ago now, but was a professor at a university that I was studying at for a little while, and they just told me like I was, and this is what I mean when like in comp lessons they just hit you with like soul wrenching questions.
Yeah.
My instructor was just like, how do you write your music? Like, where do you start? And I was like, oh, well, you know, and she just stopped me and she's like, do you write on paper? And I was like, no, I don't. I write on Sibelius. And, you know, she's like, don't do that.
Huh.
She told me that, you know, because it's true. Like, so for those of you who don't know, Sibelius is like basically just where you write the music and turn it into sheet music. And you can play it back and hear it and all that stuff. But that really, like, pretty much everything that person said to me in the very brief time I studied with them has become a core element of my writing. Great instructor.
Wow.
But no, it's like there's almost nothing that kills an idea faster than writing it on Sibelius sometimes, because like because just the process of having to input the notes with your keyboard and mouse and all that stuff, it's slower than you think of. It's slower than the notes come to you, right? And then you play
Yeah.
it back, and it doesn't sound like what you want it to because it's MIDI and it sucks, you know? So, like, I remember specifically, I saw this play out right in front of my eyes one time. A few weeks ago, I was working on a piece. I was really inspired. I was playing on the piano. The chords were just coming to me. It was a really cool moment. I was just playing and I was getting super into it. And I was like, oh my God, I have to write this down. And the first thing I do is I always write chord symbols on like a piece of paper. I've always done that. But then I pulled up my computer and started writing it down in Sibelius. And immediately the drive was killed. I was like, this sucks. You know?
Huh.
It's like, and it's not even just like a me problem. Like, it's just a thing, you know? And what I needed to do really was sketch it out first.
Yeah.
Because the problem, and this is another thing people have told me, is that I need to make sketch scores, which are basically just like, or like reduced scores, where you orchestrate everything. And a good thing to do first would be write something, like if you're writing for a full orchestra, write it for piano. Or write it for like woodwind, brass, and like just like a few small like just a few staves, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why that's so useful is because orchestrating takes a lot of effort. Like deciding how to voice things and which parts to put them on, that takes a lot of thought. And when you're just trying to get your ideas down, that gets in the way. And that's why this instructor told me that. Because when you write in Sibelius, there's this pressure to orchestrate and put things in a certain way. Whereas some of the best experiences I've had writing are where I'm thinking of something and I write it down on just sketches on staff paper, just melodies with chord symbols, bass lines, just random ideas stretched out, and I'm the only person that can interpret it. But the point is I understand it because I sketched it all out, and that's just so important, is having that space where you can put the inspiration down properly. And and that's still something I need to get better at, is translating my ideas onto paper. But I mean, like, you use a notebook for your film ideas, right?
Yeah.
Before you start scripting on a doc or something, you just write ideas down and sketch things. And another thing that's really important is drawing like dynamic maps of a song, right? Just represent the song in a single line that moves up and down throughout time, and then break it up into chunks of time. And one thing I like to do is just write words, just like descriptive words describing what I want it to sound like, you know?
Yeah, I did that for our second short film, Solace, because you had the song completed, and the song and the story didn't quite match up. So I drew the song.
Yeah, we literally went back and forth drawing these maps.
Yeah. Did you draw a map for it as well?
Yeah, what happened was I sent it to you, and you were inspired and made one yourself.
That's right.
On how, from the plot perspective.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because you made a map from the music perspective, and then I made one from the plot perspective, and then that's how we matched it up.
Yeah, and that it's just like, my point is that with inspiration, it's such a fragile thing, you know? It can be gone in an instant. It's like, when you have it, you need to be prepared. You need to have the process in place to actually get the ideas down and preserve that motivation, you know?
Yeah.
And Sibelius does kill that. I've had it happen to me before, and it's just, I need to do more. I mean, my girlfriend for Christmas not for Christmas. Would have been for my birthday. When did she? I don't know. That would have been too early. I don't know. At one point, my girlfriend, as a present, got me just a staff paper book, just like a bound book with just staff paper pages in it, and I've only filled up a few pages of it, but in those few pages are like ideas for like 8 songs.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, when I was on like at a college campus, and I would have a few hours between classes to write something down, I brought that book with me.
Yeah.
And that was how I wrote down my ideas. I wrote like for on my music channel, the clarinet etude I wrote, Whispers in the Dark, which I did on campus then. most of that was sketched out in my notebook. And that was so important because here's the thing. If you want to do feathered beaming, you just draw it. If you want to have different time signatures, you just write it in. If you want to have different notes, it's just, there's so many less obstacles when you're writing on paper.
Yeah.
You know? And you can't get the complete idea down, but the rest of it is in your head. You just need to get down the basic stuff that you'll forget, you know?
Yeah.
The music's in you. You just need to write it down. And man, talking about this now, I've had ideas for a while that I tried to write directly into Sibelius that I need to develop more on paper. Because it's just a step, and for music it's more dramatic because you don't have like some sophisticated program you put things into other than like video editing. But for you have that, this process for you is more streamlined. From idea to paper to document to filming to editing, you know? But for me it's more sporadic, which I mean, that's not a bad thing, but my point is just writing on paper is so important. Yeah. Because it just lets you sketch and just let things go.
Yeah, one time. Okay, so recently, in English, we did these like Pecha Kucha presentations.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know, those are presentations in which each slide is precisely timed. I think it's like 20 seconds per slide, and it's just a really quick presentation. And I was watching one of the examples, and it was talking about how people don't use typewriters or notebooks anymore. And I mean, some of it's kind of obvious. Like, people don't use typewriters because they have computers. But I have a typewriter, and I use notebooks. And there's not really a feeling in the world that I can... It's so different to type something out using a typewriter. Like, I use that to make lists for stuff. Like, this year, I'm using it for my Christmas wish list of records, like vinyl records. And I think that I've used it I've used it both like in movies, like the typewriter's been in short films, or it's going to be in a short film, and I've used it to plant stuff for it. And then I also use my notebook because it just feels so much more personal. If you automatically go to a computer to type something down, you've just got the whole world at your fingertips. Like, you can click away from it in an instant. You can go to a new tab, do something different whenever you'd like.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have that middle step between idea and computer.
Yeah.
You need to, because, I mean, I totally get that, because, like, Sibelius doesn't feel personal. It feels very sterile.
Yeah.
And dumb. I don't like Sibelius.
You don't like Sibelius?
No one does. Like, not a single person likes that program.
Yeah, this episode's not sponsored by Sibelius.
No, it is. They are absolute highway robbery. I'm paying $200 a year for 90s Microsoft Word as a music program. Yikes, I know, but I should look into Dorico because I've heard it's actually good.
Yeah, you might want to check into that.
Well, it's just like
something else.
I mean, it's kind of like you either get Sibelius or Finale, and they're both pretty much the same thing. Yeah. I have heard that Dorico is basically what happened was Sibelius employees way back in the day were like, "Hey, we want to make these changes to make the program actually good." And then corporate was like, "No," and then fired them. And then all of those engineers went and made their own program called Dorico. And I've heard that it's like way better. Yeah. And that once it gets support for a virtual drumline, it'll be like the standard. But maybe I should look into it. But also it's a matter of comfortability, because as much as I dog on Sibelius, I do know how to make really good looking scores with it. And I am pretty efficient with it.
Yeah.
More so than, like, I mean, like, a lot of my mentors are old people. And, like, I teach them things. Like, I was teaching, like, my instructor things about the program, like, months after I had started. Because, you know, he's just old. But, like...
Yeah, they do that.
It's, you know, if a program's going to be better for you, you should learn it. You know, I Sibelius, I didn't use forever. I used something else before it, and it was a big learning curve. But I'm getting off into random stuff. I'm ranting about Sibelius.
Would it be all right if I talked about one of my favorite filmmakers?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Wes Anderson.
Oh boy. Don't get him going on
one of my
on
absolute favorite filmmakers of all time. I got 2 of these books from him recently that just talk about his movies, and I've been watching them in order and reading about them in order. And there are so many pictures where you there's so many drawings. He always sketches stuff out. And I mean constantly. Like, there are sheets and sheets of, and it's not even like regular paper. It'll be napkins, it'll be tissues, it'll be like the notebook paper that he finds in his hotel room. You can see like the hotel logo on the paper. He'll just take whatever he can find and he just sketches stuff out. Like, he makes the rectangle for the movie box, he draws what he wants it to look like, and he writes all this stuff down, including lighting, including camera angles.
Yeah, that's so important.
Yeah.
To sketch stuff out.
Yeah, he has it all in his mind. And as I'm reading this, I'm just so inspired by him, and I want to do that as well. And I feel like I don't do it all the time. For Paperboy, I had, I think, 3 pages of storyboard where I actually sketched out each frame until I realized that it was taking a good amount of time, and I already kind of knew what I wanted to do. But for something like Wes Anderson, where he's making an entire feature film, and he's still just thinking about these little things, and he's hand making them on a piece of like tissue paper. I just think that that's so inspiring, and I think that that's a great way to get inspired, is to just keep writing things down like that. No matter if it's pretty. I said,
if you keep throwing stuff at the wall, something will stick.
Yeah, because he just kept going with it. I mean, that book's really incredible.
Yeah. So I guess like the whole thing we just spent like 15 minutes talking about is just like to the end that if like you have to have the process in place, you know? You have to know how to write things down and how to and like it's different from person to person. But I do think there is a huge power in writing on paper.
Absolutely.
And I think I need to focus on that even more. And this conversation has just rekindled that for me.
Yeah.
The understanding that you just need, it's just all sketching, you know, you need to sketch. Yeah. And yeah, I think that because I've kind of lost the drive on the piece I've been working on, but I want to finish it in the next few months because I want a particular group to play it at a particular time. So I think if I try to sketch it out a little bit more, that might really, really help.
Sure.
Because it's so much easier when you have those little ideas to start orchestrating them, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's...
I mean, it's another thing where, like, the processes between you and I are just... They're more similar than they are different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so there's I think 3 or 4 big feature movies that I want to make someday. And, of course, this is assuming a lot. But there's...
As always.
Yeah, but there are these ones... that I want to make that I've been building in my brain for years, and I haven't written down much or anything of them using a computer, but I have sketched out so much in different notebooks. I've actually asked people to make concept art for it, and they just never gave it to me. I should really look into that because it was really good concept art, but I just kind of let these ideas simmer, especially if it's something like this where I know I'm not going to make a feature film for a while, but I still want to be thinking about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to have big ideas.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so like, I've just been writing down all this stuff. Like, I've drawn how I want the characters to look. I've picked out the songs that I want to use. Just stuff like that.
And it's like those kinds of ideas that are implausible now, but that's like what's going to keep you motivated.
Oh, absolutely.
In a way.
Yeah.
Just like having these huge aspirations.
Yeah.
You know, like focus on the things you can do and take the ideas that are working for now. But you got to have those big things, you know?
Yeah. Like, okay. So I have this idea for a movie. I don't know how much I want to say, but there's this particular scene in it that I absolutely just adore. Like, I want to see it on the big screen. I want to see it in a movie. That's part of the reason why I want to make it. It's just because I want to see it. And during my creative writing class, I incorporated that into one of my characters because it was a story and the main character was suffering from like writer's block, and that was a bit how I felt at the time. And then he goes to sleep and has a dream, and the dream is this scene from the movie that I'm picturing. And afterwards, he's just exhilarated and he wakes up and he writes it all down and he's just going nuts. And I don't know, like I really built that story around me, but just incorporating that little thing, just that little idea that I have for a movie that could possibly be made in the future. It was just really cool because I got to expand on it. I really got to see more of it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like, I think that's so powerful too is making things because you want to see them come to life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, like, for my music, you know, there are things where, I mean, making things just for yourself, you know, just because you, like you said, because you want to see it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I write, like, so when I write songs, I think about the groups that I want to play them,
Yeah.
you know, and there are a few things more rewarding than hearing your piece played, you know,
Yeah.
by a group. First of all, there's no way to learn faster about what, there's no process that could teach you about your problems in writing faster, you know,
Yeah.
than having, like, talking to your performers is so important, you know,
Yeah.
but also it's a matter of being able to see your idea come to life like that is just, like, unbelievable. You know,
Yeah.
that's, like, why we do what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that one scene that I'm thinking about, okay, whenever I watch just movies that have certain insanely powerful scenes, like, to me, honestly, Avengers Infinity War comes to mind. That's not like a typical, you know, like film bro cinematic classic, but there are some scenes in that movie that just transform me into like an 8-year-old boy, and I physically, like, just like I can't sit still. I'm jumping up and down and I'm cheering and I'm so happy to see Thor land in Wakanda with his new hammer. Like, I can't even describe how excited that scene makes me. Just because it's so cool. I mean, I don't even know what else to say about it, but that's a reason. That's one of my main drives for making movies, is because I want to make things like that happen. I want to make something that, like, when I watch it, I have that same feeling, but I made it happen.
Yeah.
That would just be incredible. I can't even imagine what that would feel like.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess all of this is just talking about, I mean, like, do you have anything you wanted to wrap all the way back to talking about that, just because, like, we're talking all about this, the final it's actually kind of poetic. We started by talking about the inspiration, then we talked a lot about the process, then we talked about the desire for the final product, and now we can bring it all the way back to talking about where it all begins with the inspiration.
Yeah.
Is there anything you
let's do
wanted
that.
to say about that to wrap things up?
With the inspiration? Well, I mean, I guess that I've only ever really known my perspective and your perspective on finding inspiration. But to those of you watching, if you feel like you're having trouble finding inspiration, which I know that can definitely be a problem sometimes, I recommend just looking at more pieces, looking at music, at books and movies and art, looking at what you're interested in, because you'll find inspiration there. And then when it does come to you, don't let go of it. Don't forget about it.
Yeah.
Write it down.
Any idea is valuable.
Yeah.
And that's something, I mean, that requires having a good relationship with yourself to know that, to have value in your own work. But anything you do is worth it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's important to, whenever you have an idea, to take it seriously, you know?
Yeah.
But also not take it seriously in the way that just letting things flow and letting, like, my old art teacher from high school would always talk about play, you know? Whenever we would want to try something different on a piece, he would always tell us, have you tried it out first? Have you practiced it first, you know? And you had us do these things called media practice, where you just take, like, a 4x4 little piece of paper and just do your idea. Like, if you want to try pen and ink, then do a section of your piece in pen and ink. If you want to do watercolor, do a section of your piece in watercolor. And just let yourself experiment and let yourself try things out. And that process also really testifies to making music. Before you put things on the final canvas, Sibelius, you want to test it out and try little bits of it and put it together before, and, like, test what is going to work. And obviously you can restart an entire Sibelius score. But, like, for art, you know, it's more dramatic, because once, like, I'm working on a piece right now in pen and ink that I got to practice a little bit for, and once I put the first ink on the page, I knew, like, I had fully committed, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's that kind of idea of, I don't know. That my art teacher was always kind of a goofy fella. But he did really, that idea really does resonate with me, that you need to have that play in your process, you know, and just let things happen. Let yourself be free and just try things.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's so important that, like, there's no other better way to describe it than just play, you know, just messing around. And that's something I'm really bad at with, like, as I've been working on getting better at recording stuff. Because with recording music, I suck at that, because if something doesn't go the way I want it to, I get discouraged very, very quickly. But part of it is probably just because of the amount of effort it takes to go to the point of recording something, right?
Yeah.
Just all of that. But I think that maybe doing this channel and recording so many things might help me with that a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
But do you understand what I mean? Just
I
this
do.
idea that you need to have a space for yourself and have that, like, any idea is useful, you know, and just let things run free. Because there are so many times where for a song, a few words will become an entire poem of a song, or just one little relationship between two chords, or one little melody. That if you let that just breathe and let that go places, that will be an entire song, you know? So even the smallest things, no matter how insignificant they seem to you at the time, and you'll forget them too. If you don't write it down, it's gone forever, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there'll be times when I kick myself because I think of something and then I don't write it down exactly like how I remembered it, and then it's gone, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just, man, I'm getting so fired up. But, like, you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to capitalize on with that?
I like what you said about not fixating on one thing and letting that consume you. Because, I mean, if you write it down, then you don't need to fixate on it. I mean, you can think about other things as well.
Well, it's not just, because the thing, it does consume you. But my point is just that you need to take that one idea, that one little tidbit that's gnawing at you, and let it free.
Yeah.
You know? Let it run around and see where it goes.
Yeah.
That's where inspiration turns into product. Is when because inspiration is very small. You know, it's just one little idea.
Oh, yeah.
But once you let that idea breathe, everything else comes, and it's all from that one little thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I don't have much else to say.
Man, I've been so fired up this podcast.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my goodness. And we're getting pretty close to the point where we should probably call it. So, anything else you wanted to say?
What's the title of this episode again?
When the base title is usually when I make these podcasts, I have a base title that I come up with that I know we're going to talk about, and then there becomes the second part of it. But
Gotcha.
the base title was when inspiration becomes insatiable, because it sounds cool.
All right, it does. It does sound cool.
But I'm sure I could add something, or like, for the podcast, I write a little thesis in the description. I could probably write something there. But
Gotcha.
Did you have an idea or anything?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess it is really interesting to think about how other people feel this.
Yeah.
People who aren't you and I.
Yeah, because we are quite similar, and I feel like there's kind of a universal factor to it. But it would be interesting to. But the thing is, like, people like you and I are just hard to find. You know, the idealists. Like, I could talk to other people about inspiration, but you and I have this way that's just completely unique, and that's why we've worked together so well.
Yeah.
Is because we understand each other so deeply, because we are each other.
Yeah.
On that level, you know.
Yeah.
That's like always been one of the bases.
Bases. I think so.
IDK. That's always been one of the foundations. Use words you know of our relationship. Is this connection we have because we truly understand that process, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And I guess, I mean, I've mostly been talking about filmmaking for me, but that process for me goes way back. Like when I was starting in elementary school, I would make all these like these little books. Like I would make these books where I just tape all these pages together and I get like a quarter of the way through and I'd move on to a different book. And then of course I had my first YouTube channel where I made Lego stuff, and I have over 200 videos there.
Are we finna plug that?
I mean, not really. I don't post there anymore. But yeah, go check out Epic of Fig 101. Link down in the description.
If I remember.
Yeah, if Cam remembers, which I understand if he doesn't. But I've just felt that process for so long, just because I've been
it's just a
making
part of
stuff.
You.
Yeah.
We both of us have just been making stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, like, I know now, like, I think this YouTube channel has helped taught me that, like, creating things is my passion. And that's what helped me learn more and more that composition is what I want to study specifically. Because I could study percussion performance, you know? I could have done piano or jazz studies or something like that. But the reason why I want to do composition is because I've learned that my passion is creating.
Yeah.
And it's part of why this channel is so important is because it gives me a way to create without it always having to be music, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I've just...
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, like, that's the thing is, why I always talk to you about this, is because I know that you and I both are creators. And that's just who we are.
Yeah.
Whatever form it takes on in life, that's just part of us. That we're, like, for the rest of our lives, we're going to have to be doing stuff, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, it really did start with writing books and then making my Lego videos. But even with making stuff out of Lego, that was a process in and of itself, because I'd be inspired by something. It could be anything. I'd find pictures of it. I'd have it ready to go, unless I was making something completely new. Unless it wasn't based off of anything, then I'd just start. I'd usually draw some stuff. I had this like notebook paper. It was like what's it called? The graph paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd sketch it out. Like I'd have little blueprints sometimes. And that was a whole process in and of itself. And I absolutely loved that. Just the problem-solving process of making something with Lego. Because, okay, I got pretty good at it after a while. I was really good.
You were
at making stuff with
Lego.
Lego.
You made some crazy stuff.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just got out of it recently, like in the past year, which is sad to think about. But I mean, I've been making short films now. I've been taking that same creative process, especially from the video aspect of making Lego videos, and applying it to short films, which I'm just as passionate about now as I was about Lego then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I can't play zombies forever or make Terraria videos forever. At some point, this channel will probably cease. I mean, who knows? I have no
it'll
idea.
just evolve until then, right?
Well, here's the thing. I don't want to just make things for the sake of making them. I want to make things because I'm passionate about them, you know?
Yeah.
And I have to be real with myself and know that at some point, things aren't going to last forever. But also, like, I think music is a thing that I can do for the rest of my life and will never get tired of, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, maybe this is similar. I mean, it's a matter of branching out, because, like, I can't make zombies videos forever. And that's what's really difficult as, like, a YouTuber or, like, a musician, is to build an identity for yourself with a certain thing. And having the ability to branch out and carry your fans with you is what separates the greatest creators of all time from just another one, you know? Like the Beatles.
Yeah.
One thing that was fascinating about them from their boy band love song era, right? That's where they made their name. And then they could have ridden out that fame for the rest of their lives on, like, their stuff like Please Please Me, I Want to Hold Your Hand, like all that era of songs, you know?
Yeah.
They could have rode that out. But they took that immense success and went sideways. And, you know, as they went through their different eras of music, they're like, as they got more into, like, their psychedelic era, they carried their fans with them. And now that the Beatles are no more, we look back and say that they're one of the greatest bands of all time because they've done so much, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm in, like, it's all about the, like, eras, you know, like, you, with your Lego channel, you know, that's done. But, and it's not, like, as direct, because it's not like you're gonna, like, make different different YouTube channel, but different things, right? It's just like that's the thing. Like with YouTube, I know is that at some point I'm gonna like for the games I'm playing right now, for the things that are making me popular right now, that's not gonna go on forever.
Yeah.
And the true test will be if I can go sideways. And I think I'm setting myself up for that because I'm making different types of content.
Yeah.
I'm not holding myself into just like I've said before that if all I ever did was zombies, I would probably be more successful, more lucrative, because people that really love zombies would find my channel and all they would ever see is that. They wouldn't have to see all this other like Terraria. What's that? You know,
Yeah.
but like I do it because that's what I want to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I want the channel to be about me, not about one game.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm setting myself up to have that ability to go sideways, you know?
Yeah, like you mentioned with the Beatles, I always really, really respected when a band or a group or an artist of any kind just does what they want, and because they're so talented and so passionate about it, people follow them.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want people to want to see me do things, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
And
absolutely.
I want to be like the main, like even with my music, you know? Because I do all sorts of different music. I don't want to just I don't want to be known for one thing. I want to be known for who I am, you know? And you have to, like you said, when there are those tremendously skilled people, you will want to see whatever they do because it's inspiring, it's enthralling, you know? And that's like my dream with this YouTube channel is to just, and again, it's like getting a bit grandiose here for the reality of my life. But like you said earlier, if you're not thinking big, like, like you're just gonna stay in the same place, you know?
Yeah. So you mentioned the Beatles. I want to mention another band, one of my favorite bands, Mumford & Sons.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say 21 Pilots.
No.
For a second.
Why would you put that in the podcast?
Because you were a 21 Pilots
We're not gonna talk about that. That is yet another era that is in the past.
All right.
But Mumford & Sons, one of my favorite bands as of right now. What I absolutely admire about them is that their first two albums, they really became known for their folk music, you know, for the banjo, for the like the like all that. But then after that, they wanted to switch to making more alternative rock kind of stuff. They switched to having electric guitars and using a lot more. I can't even describe it, but they wanted to.
I know
make that
exactly
change.
what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, I've showed you Tally Hall before.
Yes.
And I know you're not as much of a fan as me.
Yeah.
But like, just the entire album, Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum, alliteration points. But no, that entire album. The reason why it's so captivating to me, and so inspiring too, is because none of their songs sound like you can tell it's a Tally Hall song because they have their sound, the sound of their vocals, and the sound of their like just the way they mix their music, that builds their character as an art group. But like other than that, all of their songs sound totally different style. You know, like you have Two Love. A funny title. Like that song is like a hard banging metal song, almost. You know, but it's like super fun. And then you have like that right next to, in the track listing right next to Be Born, which like has like fiddle and like banjo and stuff in it, you know?
Wow.
And like it's like a very like, and then that's contrast like just like the first three songs. You have what the first song, what is it? It's a good or A Good Day, I think it's called. Like Good Day and then Greener. Those are like, it shows like they're more like alternative side and then they're more like just indie rock side. And then you have Welcome to Town. Like I could talk about all of the songs for like a minute. And Banana Man is just like like they have just so many different songs, and like even within their own songs they reach completely different styles and go completely different directions all in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And like even though I don't make music that sounds like that, that idea that you can make all these different things has been so inspiring to me as an artist, you know, because their music is so captivating for that, because like they just have this awesome sound and they take it in so many different directions, and that's why I love them so much. I wouldn't listen to them as much if all of their songs were just like Greener. If all of their songs were just like Welcome to Tally Hall, or just like Taken for a Ride. That's the song I was thinking of. Like if all of their songs were like that, I wouldn't listen to them.
Yeah.
But they have such an amazing different library. And like that's what you were talking about with like Mumford and Sons more over time, is that they changed their style.
Yeah, and their songs, their newer ones are still as meaningful to me as the older ones are.
Exactly.
And one of my favorite songs right now, Kansas City, which is also sung by Marcus Mumford of Mumford and Sons. Some of the lyrics go, and I love you, dear, but just how long can I keep singing the same old song? And I'm not sure, but I think the lyrics were written by Bob Dylan.
Yeah, they were. It was like the Lost Songs.
Yeah, and I think that it was about him wanting to switch his style of music, but being hesitant because he didn't know what his fans would think. And I'm not sure what ended up happening, but those lyrics have just always stuck with me, because I think that doing what you want and moving, like flowing with what you want to do, not what people want to hear, but with what you're passionate about, I think that that's just the most important thing when it comes to art.
Yeah. And that inspiration is just your passion just going crazy for an instant, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just like, that's the thing, is like you and I have the passion, and the inspiration is just, yeah.
Yeah.
We've gone so off the rails. We're almost at an hour.
We're at an hour?
Yeah. This will probably
Wow.
be the longest podcast I'll ever, I'll make for a substantial amount of time.
Well, I think we're pretty good.
Do you think you want to take anything all the way back to where we started?
Inspiration.
I tried to do that 20 minutes ago, and then we talked about a bunch of other stuff.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's okay that we didn't go back.
Yeah, I mean, when it's going well, like, hey, you know, I just let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh. We probably could have taken the last 20 minutes and made a whole separate episode. But,
Yeah, probably.
But I think this has its own identity at this point.
Yeah.
You know? Ooh. Any closing statements?
Did you hear my stomach growl just then?
We gotta have lunch.
Yeah, we do gotta have lunch.
Yeah. I honestly don't even know what else to say. It's one of those where it's just like, wow, what do I even do about that? You know?
Daddy Big and I are gonna go have lunch. And then we'll be back for another episode that you'll see in
5 weeks' time.
5 weeks' time.
No closing statement. You're just done.
I'm just hungry.
Hi, hungry. I'm Daddy Big.
Stop.
Hey, you know what, boys? I IDK, right?
Well
But-
said.
I mean, like, I think we said everything there is to say, and much more. 20 minutes more than what
Yeah.
needed to be said. But hey, you know what? We let it flow, and that's just a thing. I got inspired during this podcast. My boy Luggy got inspired during this podcast, and we just let it go, and it just exploded and turned into this hour-long mess of random garbage. But hey, you know, that's really just the beauty of the podcast. You never know what's going to happen here on Daddy Big's Deliriums.
Sure is.
And that's why-
so true.
I am feeling delirious at this point.
I'm really hungry. I want a sandwich.
We're going to go make Shibkin sandwich with Bipkle. Pickle.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, me too.
All right. I'm going to cut it off before we just spiral into nothing. Bye. Oh, thanks for watching, by the way.
Yay!